In the early hours of May 2, 2018, emergency teams are searching through the remains of a high-rise tower. Within a mere 80 minutes, a well-known building on São Paulo's skyline had fallen. As they assess the extent of the catastrophe, there are several people missing, feared dead. Oddly, this building, constructed of steel and concrete, seems to have been brought down by a fire. Located in the bustling heart of São Paulo, the Wilton Paes de Almeida building stood as a pioneering edifice in Brazilian architecture when it was first constructed in the early 1960s. This skyscraper was one of the first in Brazil to feature a striking glass facade, a visionary design that cleverly masked its robust steel and concrete skeleton. The core of the building contained the elevator shafts and main staircase, encased in a durable framework of steel and concrete. Surrounding this core were just for strategically placed support columns, also crafted from steel and concrete but set back from the building's glassy perimeter. The floors, made of ribbed concrete, extended outward in a cantilever style around the core and columns, creating a spacious and adaptable interior. This design not only maximized the usable space but also, combined with the transparent facade, allowed for an abundance of natural light, albeit with the potential for significant heat gain. To counteract this, the building was equipped from the outset with an integrated air conditioning system, ingeniously incorporated into the floor design to conceal the ducting and maintain a comfortable climate inside. This system was essential for preventing condensation on the expansive glass panels. The elegant facade of the building was framed by slim aluminum supports that matched the slender profile of the concrete floor slabs. In its prime, the Wilton Paes de Almeida building was a marvel of modern design, capturing the gaze of all who passed by. Despite its architectural beauty, the building was not particularly noted for its structural strength, a trade-off that was considered during its design phase. The construction of the building spanned from 1961 to 1968, carried out by Morse and Barbark, and commissioned by its first owner. The owner leased the building's 26 stories to various tenants, including the Commercial Glass Company of Brazil and the Caixa Econômica Federal Bank, which occupied retail space on the ground level. The main entrance boasted a lavish touch with marble flooring imported from Greece. Upon its inauguration, the building's address was set at 22 Rua Antonio Diego, adjacent to the Evangelical Lutheran Church of São Paulo. Named in honor of Paes's older brother, the building initially had no architectural equals in the vicinity. However, due to unresolved financial issues, it was eventually seized by the government in 1992, becoming the headquarters for São Paulo Police and the Brazilian Social Security. The building, once a gleaming symbol of modern architectural innovation in São Paulo, was formally recognized for its historical, cultural, and environmental significance, securing its place on the city's heritage preservation list. Despite this accolade, the building underwent only minimal alterations during its tenure under government control, with no substantial modernization or refurbishment efforts undertaken. By 2003, this lack of attention took its toll, and the building was left abandoned, its initial promise of transformation into a cultural center unfulfilled. Neglect soon became apparent as the building aged visibly without maintenance, a familiar fate for unoccupied structures worldwide. It wasn't long before squatters began to inhabit the building. Reports on how these new occupants arrived were mixed. Some suggested government involvement, while others believed their settlement was entirely unauthorized. Regardless, it was clear that those residing within were not mere transient squatters but rather families in dire circumstances, seeking refuge in the absence of alternatives. The building was then informally managed by the Movement for Social Struggle for Housing, where each family contributed a small fee for their makeshift homes. This phenomenon was not isolated, as the LA Times noted, with the government tolerating similar situations in up to 70 other buildings across downtown São Paulo. The building's decline accelerated, graffiti covered its walls, trash accumulated, and residents constructed partitions from scrap wood to carve out private spaces across its floors. Essential services such as elevators were long gone, their shafts repurposed into de facto garbage chutes, leading to refuse piling up at the base of the building, uncollected. Electricity was sporadic, with residents often resorting to dangerously tapping into nearby streetlights to power their homes. In 2015, the building was put on the market, and by 2018, efforts to reclaim the structure intensified. Local authorities held multiple discussions with the residents, warning of legal action if they did not vacate. These discussions spanned from February to April of that year, signaling a determined push to clear the building. However, fate would intervene, rendering these efforts moot, as the building's long-standing issues soon reached a critical point. In the early hours of May 1, 2018, disaster struck at the building in São Paulo when a fire ignited on the 5th floor. The exact cause of the blaze remains a matter of dispute. While many suspect a short circuit from makeshift electrical wiring, there are also reports of a violent altercation that escalated to a tragic extent, involving alcohol and a lit match. Regardless of its origin, the location and conditions of the fire were primed for rapid escalation. It quickly consumed the flammable makeshift partitions of wood and cardboard and, aided by the vacant elevator shafts, spread swiftly both upwards and across the building. At around 1:30 a.m., the smoke and flames began to rouse the sleeping residents, who frantically sought escape through the main staircase. As the building filled with smoke, the fire engulfed virtually every level, from the lobby to the roof. The intense heat caused the building's glass facade to burst, raining shards onto the streets below. Visible for miles due to its height, the blaze drew crowds of onlookers from across the city. Emergency services rushed to the scene, facing the daunting challenge of controlling the Inferno and evacuating the tower. Amid their efforts, the fire reached a neighboring building. Then, at approximately 2:50 a.m., the structure succumbed to the intense heat and structural damage, collapsing dramatically into the street. The collapse also claimed the adjacent Evangelical Lutheran church, burying it under debris. Tragically, many were still inside when the building fell. Reports from the New York Times highlighted the desperate cries for help from someone trapped on an upper floor just before the collapse, likely leading to their death. A massive response ensued, with around 160 firefighters dispatched to tackle the blaze and search the debris for survivors and victims. By the afternoon, the site was subdued to smoldering remnants. The calamity profoundly shook the community, symbolizing the grave housing crisis in the city. In the weeks that followed, rescue operations continued amidst the rubble. Several bodies were recovered, but the search was officially halted after 2 weeks, with at least 4 people still unaccounted for. The confirmed death toll stood at 7, though the exact number of casualties remained uncertain due to the informal nature of residents' registration in the building. The event not only highlighted the perilous living conditions but also underscored the urgent need for comprehensive urban housing reforms. The fire at the building not only claimed lives but also left many injured and displaced hundreds, forcing survivors into tents or to sleep on the streets. The tragedy stirred deep unrest within the local community, and this sentiment boiled over during a visit by President Michel Temer. He was in São Paulo for the May Day holiday and made a brief appearance at the site on the following Tuesday. However, his visit was cut short as angry residents confronted him, a reflection of the widespread frustration and grief. In the aftermath, the debris was eventually cleared and removed for disposal. The question lingering in the minds of many was why a building composed of steel and concrete, materials renowned for their fire resistance, could collapse so disastrously. The answer isn't straightforward and lies in the nuances of structural engineering and maintenance. Paulo Heleni, along with other experts, conducted a thorough investigation into the collapse. Their findings were published in a detailed paper that examined the condition and quality of the building materials. Interestingly, the investigations confirmed that the materials, including the rebar in the concrete, were of good quality and the spacing within the columns met the standards of the 1960s. However, the design of the building, with its central core supported by only 4 columns, was pinpointed as a critical factor. While this configuration efficiently handled normal gravitational loads, it proved inadequate against the lateral forces generated by intense heat. The fire, burning wood at temperatures upwards of 600 degrees Celsius, lasted for over an hour with a chimney effect exacerbated by the vacant lift shafts. This intense heat caused the building's steel components to expand significantly. According to Heleni's analysis, the thermal expansion resulted in torsional movements, rotational forces that twisted the structure. These forces were estimated to be about 20 times greater than those caused by wind or vertical loads, which the building was originally designed to withstand. This unexpected stress caused the building to twist and ultimately led to its catastrophic collapse, literally twisting itself apart under the combined effects of heat and structural vulnerabilities.